psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, author of Stop Mass Hysteria, Michael Savage.
Hey, welcome to The Savage Nation. Well, at least we know Trump colluded with the Seminole Nation, not Russia. Welcome to The Savage Nation. The bomb suspect was arrested. And the only question is, after we get into all of the details, such as the strange situations, such as the convenient stickers on his van that are not faded, the question about how could you drive around with a van like that in a liberal neighborhood. I know if I put a Trump sticker on my car, even in San Francisco, they would trash it. Here's a guy driving around with these stickers on his van for how long now? An hour before the arrest? We don't know. The good news is nobody was hurt from this impotent nut. At the end of the day, he's a lone wolf and an impotent nut, and thank God nobody was hurt. Having said that, this is a huge story with regard to the election. And I'm going to ask you today how you think this will affect the election. Make no mistake about it. This is a serious body blow to the Republican Party and to Donald Trump. No matter which way you want to spin it, even if you think he's a patsy, even if you think he's set up, it doesn't really matter. The damage has been done, and I believe that you're going to see a different Trump after this, and you're going to see people running from the Republican Party like you've never seen before. That's my opinion. The independents are gone. Even if they vote for Republican after this, they're never going to say that they did so. So whoever did this, whether it's him alone or he's a patsy or he was set up, the damage has been done. You've seen the news. Cesar Sayoc of Aventura, Florida, the suspect, he's now in custody. And maybe you're asking me if I'm going to say, is this real? Well, it is real. He's very real and he's very disturbed. And he may have just brought down a party. Now, let's be clear. I did say this week there was a high probability that this would be a false flag attack. I never said it was 100% a false flag attack. Remember my words. I said there was a high probability that it was a false flag attack. I'm not going to deny, though, what is in front of my eyes. You have a possible lone wolf nut whose family apparently goes back to the Philippines, where his grandfather was a staunch anti-communist, who even developed a martial arts form on his own to fight communist hand-to-hand combat. And here is a man who was triggered by communists in the United States of America to commit an act of impotent rage by sending around these, I don't know how you can call them mail bombs. It doesn't even seem to me they were real bombs. This is not an excuse. This is what happened. Hysteria is running across both parties right now, and this is just another example of where it has led. And what it has done is this. It may have finished the Republican Party off in the midterms. No one will tolerate violence of this sort. I think the independents are going to go. I think many women are gone. It simply fits the narrative that Trump triggers violence, and they will not put up with this sort of rhetoric anymore. Now, you could argue that the communists in this nation triggered, or did he just take it upon himself? Never forget that Timothy McVeigh once brought down a party, and it's happening again. Now, many of you will argue that he's a deep state plant, that he was taken out of a deep headquarters location. I don't believe any of that. It looks to me like he's a lone wolf nut who was triggered by all of this hatred coming from MSNBC, CNN, Soros, and all of the others that he targeted. I'm not blaming them, but I'm telling you that it's very easy to hate them for what they've been saying about this country, especially those who have been screaming, yes, let the whole world into this nation. If you're a poor guy on the bottom who's living on scraps, and you have a party that wants millions of people to come into the country, you might also snap. Now, how could he drive around with that van and not be hassled by Democrats who have harassed people for a lot less? Just wear a MAGA hat, you'll get harassed in this country. How could he have driven around in that car without any cameras tipping anyone off? How could he drive that van legally with all of those windows covered? Can you say for sure with 100% certainty that he's not a patsy? Why would a supporter of Trump and a registered Republican commit such an act right before the midterm elections? Let me repeat that line. Why would an avid supporter of Trump and a registered Republican commit such an act right before the midterm elections? Why would he sabotage his own party when they were running so strongly? The motive is irrational, and usually acts of terrorism are committed when there's a sense of defeat or desperation. The Republicans and Trump are doing well right now. Why would he send these packages now? Why kick the left when they were already down? They failed at taking down Brett Kavanaugh. They failed at gaining support for the migrant caravan. The timing of this lone wolf mail bomb suspect is odd, irrational. But he does have a social media presence of supporting Trump and Republicans. He does have a criminal record. There is violence in his past. These are things that cannot be denied. And so while we entertained the possibility of a false flag earlier in the week, we left open the possibility that there was a real Trump-supporting, MAGA hat-wearing person who would be found to have done this. Irregardless, this is a disaster for the Republicans and Trump. No matter how this may turn out, right now, the left-wing media and the left-wing politicians who are for open borders and anti-America will go all out on a full frontal assault on us patriots and on Donald Trump. This would be worth millions if these were political ads writing themselves. And that's just what happened. The media will now use their power to go full negative on anything patriotic, anything Trump supported. They just got their blue wave. Or do you think I'm wrong? Do you think Trump is finished as a politician because of this? Do you think the Republicans are finished in this election? I'm going to open it up to you as I continue to give you news about this man, because I found some things that are worth disclosing I don't think you've seen yet. The phone number is 855-400-7282, 855-400-SAVAGE. On a website entitled heavy.com, which I linked on michaelsavage.com, we see statements about him. He's a registered Republican. His family was involved in fighting the Communist Party of the Philippines, so it's in his DNA. Let's see. What else did they say that you haven't heard yet? Everybody knows everything. We know about bodybuilding nut. He likes scantily clad women. Worked in a strip club as a bouncer. He claims to be a booking agent with Seminole Hard Rock Live. Claims to have studied pre-vet medicine at Brevard College in Florida. Claims to have studied business at UNC Charlotte. We don't know any of this. We do know there's a little history of his arrests in the past, and we have that for you on the Savage Nation. 2000, and let's go back to 1991. Convicted of grand theft, given 2 years probation, and paid $1,612. 1992, the bomber was arrested in Miami-Dade for shoplifting. 94, his spouse accused him of domestic abuse in a civil filing. 04, arrested twice for possession and sale of steroids. 09, arrested on a criminal traffic violation for driving without a license. 14, was arrested in Miami-Dade for shoplifting. 2015, arrested in West Palm Beach for shoplifting a Walmart. Complaint said he grabbed a rolling briefcase and a luggage bag worth $58 and tried to leave the store without paying. So there's enough here for everybody. Whichever side you're on, you can take your side now with some justification. But the biggest winners here are going to be the anti-American communists who are for open borders and hate Donald Trump. And for those of you on the other side, I guess you could always say, but wait, he's only 1,024th Republican. Again, at the end of the day, he is a lone wolf, and he's an impotent nut, and thank God nobody was hurt. I open it up to the callers at 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. People are saying this. Why are the stickers on his van not faded? They look brand new. Broward County is a major Democrat area. The car would have been vandalized immediately. Number 3, the van would more than likely be illegal to drive. It would have been pulled over immediately. And they say there are so many things wrong with this picture. Please use your mind and think. Another caller says, so a steroid-using male stripper was able to mail bombs from the U.S. Postal Service directly to the home addresses of an international villain and Secret Service-protected politicians. Right. All that is missing is his mullet. You know, people are asking these questions. Why is a known domestic terror threat driving around in a totally obscured van arousing no suspicion? I can't drive without sirens, lights, and a cop yelling at me through a megaphone if I even have a broken taillight for 5 minutes. Now, we looked up Florida law, which says no person shall drive any motor vehicle with any sign, poster, or other non-transparent material upon the front windshield, side wings, or side or rear windows of such vehicle which materially obstructs, obscures, or impairs the driver's clear view of the highway or any intersecting highway. If you will look at the suspect's van, you will see that his side and rear windows are completely obscured with Trump-related paraphernalia. When were they applied to the windows? Were they in a CIA crime lab, an FBI crime lab? Or is it really this guy? How could he drive around like that without being pulled over? Look, here's the thing. There's something in this for everyone. Those of you on the Republican side, are you going to say it looks like a phony setup? It looks like he's the patsy like you said there would be yesterday. You're right. You're going to say, remember what I said? Where's the Lee Harvey Oswald? Here he is, right? Here's the Lee Harvey Oswald. We got him now. Now, if a Jack Ruby appears before he makes a statement, we'll know it's a complete faker. Let's pray to God there's no Jack Ruby that's also going to be released from a lab somewhere, some training lab. Now, having said that, on the other side, they're convinced that you are all nuts like him. Remember, I want you to see the world through the eyes of an Upper East Side New York liberal. I want you to imagine what it's like to wake up and immediately reach for your antidepressant and your antipsychotic medication. That's even before you brush your teeth. You then do a speed dial to your psychiatrist to confirm the appointment later that morning. You then immediately turn on the news and you start raging, and you have your minute of hate against Donald Trump. Later on in the day, you turn on Michael Savage. Again, you get your minute of rage, your minute of hate. You listen to me, and you have another minute of hate. Do you have any idea what this does to them? Do you have any idea what an Upper East Side wackadoodle left-wing fanatic is saying today? Do you realize they're breaking out their medication today? They're going to celebrate. They're going to share meds tonight. I mean, they don't drink. We know that's dangerous. They're going to share their meds over a latte before the sun is setting today. There's going to be a med-sharing latte party tonight somewhere in New York City. All around the city, they're going to break open their bottles of whatever the medication is used for psychosis. I don't even know what's used today. So there's enough to go around for both sides. And I would be remiss, because no one else will do it, to say to you, if he does not clearly represent what mass hysteria is on both sides, I'd like to know who does. The man is a walking example of America's insanity. And if you think he is alone in having been triggered by George Soros, Hillary Clinton, and all of the left-wing fanatics and America haters, you're mistaken. And there's a lot more like him out there who are much more dangerous than him. And I'll let that hang in the air.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Take 1 atom of nitrogen and bond it with 1 atom of oxygen. Boom, you just created nitric oxide, a miracle molecule your own body makes that fuels your cardiovascular health, keeping you vibrant. But as we all age, our bodies need help generating more natural nitric oxide. Super Beets by Human has harnessed the power of nutrient-enriched beets and created a superfood that helps your body make more nitric oxide on its own. The core philosophy of Human is to develop heart-healthy products for your body. 1 teaspoon of Super Beets daily tends to support your cardiovascular health and blood pressure levels, giving you natural energy without the need of a quick caffeine kick or sugar high. We're talking real, healthful, natural energy. So call 800-481-0504 or go to SavageLovesBeets.com and find out how you can get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets and free shipping with your first purchase. I want you to feel the 1 + 1 = boom effect of Super Beets. Just call 800-481-0504 or SavageLovesBeets.com. Enough meat for both sides of the insane America that we now live in. And I just tweeted, man and van look like created by Hollywood. In other words, if you were Steven Spielberg and company. And you were tasked with creating a villain, Trump supporter, right-wing nut kook, and you had to give him a set of wheels. I mean, could you do better than this if you were writing a movie? Come on, many of you are screenwriters who listen to me. And you couldn't do better. The man is central casting nutcase. The only thing wrong with the picture for the left-wing haters of this country is that he's not a white male. That's the one thing that throws it off. Claims he's a Seminole, and yet some postings claim he's from the Philippines, and that his grandfather developed his own style of martial arts to fight communists. We don't know really much about that. Some sites say he's a registered Democrat, changed to Republican, registering with the GOP in Florida in March of 2016. Cesar Altieri Randazzo is his name on Facebook, Randazzo. And he says his grandfather, Colonel Baltazar Zouk Sayak, was a martial arts practitioner who developed his own style of fighting. Sayak Kali. Sayak says that style was used to fight the Communist Party of the Philippines. There's a detailed website about this fighting style. On that LinkedIn profile, Mr. Sayak calls himself a promoter, booking agent, and choreographer of a male stripping show, as well as burlesque shows in the Miami area. Sorry. Okay, so, look, there's a lot here. You can laugh at, chuckle at some of it. You can breathe a sigh of relief that he's not a truly dangerous man. The bombs looked fake to everyone who studied them yesterday. They looked like they couldn't go off. They looked like they were made by a child for Halloween. But nevertheless, they were frightening. And the biggest question that frightened everyone yesterday was how could they get into all of these high-end people's mailboxes and such without any video footage? I mean, where is the surveillance footage on Soros's property? Where is the footage at the Chappaqua property of the Clintons? These should show us if it was him. Who delivered this stuff? All right, let's take some callers because I'm opening it up to you. Again, I conclude with one line. The man in the van looked like they were created by Hollywood to me. And I hope that there's no Jack Ruby coming next in the cast of characters. That's all I can say. All right? And at least we now know that Trump did not collude with the Russians. It was with the Seminole tribe. That's the main thing we should know. If you want to be serious about it, you can be serious. You could lighten it up a bit and say, let's breathe a sigh of relief. And by the way, where is the invasion today? How far have they gotten in Mexico? How close are they to our border? Anyone have an answer to that one? I do. I'll be back with that news and more right here on the Savage Nation. I invite you to call at 855-4. You just know the know-nothings in New York are celebrating today, saying, you see that? Look at that. Just what we thought. Cracker in that van. Look at that. Now, how does mass hysteria begin? It starts with Google, for example, who create algorithms which redirect young people to sites that Google thinks they should see. Progressive sites that advance their agenda. And this type of thought manipulation is how you begin to move centrists to the left and leftists to pure madness. Encouraged by Google, people start turning into leftist television and film so-called comedians and actors, many of whom have become Democrat Party mouthpieces. And when the seeds have been planted and the mind control begun, the ground is fertile to cultivate mass hysteria. That is how supposedly objective media like the New York Times and CNN work, relying on, preying on the public short memory. John Q. Stupid forgot or never learned that the real danger is the masses' wishes, inclinations, and passions. As John Adams cautioned, the corrupt mainstream media encourages people to be afraid. Afraid of Trump, afraid of Russia, afraid of extreme weather. But they're never encouraged to fear Hillary or Pelosi or Warren or immigrant gangs, forces that serve the left's agenda, although they should. The blitz from Wolf Blitzer and the rest causes a brutalized, frightened, susceptible public to buy papers, watch TV, and visit websites to see the latest developments in what they've been told they should be worried about. And I give you examples in Stop Mass Hysteria. I've read directly from my book. Because if you look at the book, if you've actually bought it, you'll see it's not so partisan as you may expect. It's pretty neutral. Now, the nutcase himself, according to his lawyer, Ronald Scott Lowy, an attorney who says he's represented SIAC in previous cases, has told reporters that his former client, quote, has always had problems dealing with life. Lowy added, I felt that he wasn't always in his right mind. Lowy also suggests or alleges that Sayak altered his date of birth because he wanted to look younger. The attorney added that the 56-year-old was proud of his heritage, as quoted, American Indian. So we're getting a couple of different reports, American Indian, Filipino, which is I'm not casting aspersions on Native Americans in any way, nor upon Philippine people, but we're just giving you reports that are coming in because everyone's curious as to who done it. That's what it comes down to. It's a who done it. That's what we're all doing, who done it. And so the left wing is sighing with relief because it fulfills their worst stereotype of a right-winger. If you were a woman in Manhattan and you walked around in her brain, in her body for, I don't want to do it that. Let's say you were her walking around in her body for one afternoon and walking the streets of Manhattan. Anyone who looks like this is a right-wing MAGA bomber. Anyone who votes for Trump is a Nazi. This is how they see the world. So this confirms their worst fears. Now, if you're a Republican who loves America and not extremist at all, let's say you're a fiscal conservative, a modest social conservative, and you oppose the dissolution of our borders, for example, you're actually a little nervous today because you're saying, I don't want to be associated with this guy. Who would? I have to just drop any affiliation now with Trump or the Republican Party. I mean, I may vote for them, but I'm really embarrassed to be associated with them. This is the human action. I'm not reading a script. I'm telling you the way it is. I have my best guesses, Now this one out here, the empty skirt in California, Kamala Harris has come out. She also got one, too. See, unless you get one, or got one, you're no longer on the A-list of left-wingers. You're not in the league of Hillary, Waters, Soros, Obama, and Holder. You got to be on the A-list. In order to be on the A-list, you need to be on the list of those receiving these packages. So you're going to see a lot more now, just before Halloween. Well, is this him? Is he a patsy? Is this another repeat of another patsy job? Because the man in the van looked awfully constructed to old Mike. Yeah, he's a nut, for sure, and probably his fingerprints are on it. Now it turns out he threatens celebrities on Twitter. I just got that now. From Variety, just came out. Sent to old Mike by a friend of mine. Jim Carrey, Ron Howard among celebrities threatened on Twitter by mail bomb suspect. So now how do you compute this? Jim Carrey and Ron Howard? Is that Ron Jeremy? Ron Howard. I'm sorry. I see the word Ron. Jim Carrey and Ron Howard among celebrities threatened on Twitter by mail bomb suspect. Let's see who mail bomb. Cesar Sayak. Sayak apparently used these accounts to directly threaten a number of actors and politicians, including Jim Carrey, Ron Howard, Rob Reiner, George Soros, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and others. So now they're all on the A-list. They can all sigh with relief. They've made the cut. They can now be invited to a high-end cocktail party at the wherever they're raising money for the left wing. Fox News. Okay, so we're going to see what emerges over the next few days. And the suspect did attack George Soros' home. I don't understand how the gardener got the alleged bomb and set it off in the field, and there's no remnant of it. I'm still going to ask to the end of this whole charade, where's the surveillance footage of the individual who planted put these devices, these impotent devices, into the mailboxes? I want to see one picture of it. Let's take one call, okay? This is a hot day. Everyone's very excited. The minute we saw this morning, I said, personally, this is going to be one of the toughest shows I ever did because I know my enemies are gloating today saying you were wrong. You said there was a false flag. Well, if you look at the narrative of what I said there's a high likelihood or a high probability it could be a false flag. And to this day, I'm not so sure it isn't. Because there's too many things about his van and about him that are a little too convenient at this particular time. I mean, not to be comedic in the political arena, I'm telling you, I'm not 100% sure this is the whole story that we're seeing. I remain skeptical. I question authority. That's how I have been since I'm a little boy. And I have found no reason in my adult life to stop questioning authority, whether that authority be on one side of the aisle or the other. I certainly question those in the media, including those on my side of the aisle, who I question even more than CNN, because I know a lot about them that you don't know. I mean, we know we can attack CNN and MSNBC. They're easy. But, if you ever knew what I knew that I can't say about people on my side who pretend to be great patriots and wonderful, kind Americans, if I could ever tell you what gets me crazy every day when I hear them talk, you'd understand how nonpartisan I actually am. WSBA, Mike Line 9, go ahead, please.
Yes, Dr. Savage, you are a modern-day Erasmus. You predicted all these things to take place in your book, The Enemy Within. It's amazing. I mean, as Erasmus would say about the ACLU lawyers, a most learned species of profound ignorance. And you spell it all out. You, sir, make Erasmus look like an apple.
Wait, you're going back to a book I wrote in 2006, The Enemy Within, where I appear on the cover in a raincoat, that picture?
Yes, I am, sir.
That's funny that you should still reference that book.
Well,
I haven't looked at it. I haven't dusted it off in a long time. But I do know that there's a reference in the beginning that's been widely picked up, which is the dedication, and then it goes to Cicero. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. You see, for the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face in their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear. I mean, I can give you 5 names that come to mind right now. Who comes to mind when I read that to you?
Wow. I'll tell you what. I'm just got goosebumps from you reading that. Well,
there are enough names to fill this a whole new book.
Wow.
There are enough names to fill the entire book. There are enough enemies within this nation to fill an entire book. How we've gone from Plymouth Rock to Plymouth Crock in one generation. I mean, there's pretty good stuff in there. And the book concludes with enemies within the newsroom. So this is nothing new to me. I've watched this for a long time. And it's very sad to see that the left wing has not yet stopped their riling up these marginal characters. Let's assume for a minute that the guy is the guy who mailed these impotent little devices, right? And he did it on his own, and he's not a patsy of the deep state. Let's for a minute assume that. Who is it who triggered him into this state of fear and paranoia? The very people that he sent them to. You could say I'm justifying it, which I am not doing. You could say anything you want. You can categorize me in a way that I would be very, very angry, but I know you're doing it anyway, those of you who are the enemies of truth. If you were a marginal guy on the bottom, living on the edge with almost no money, and you had a fear of communists, which his family apparently has had since a couple of generations, if the Philippine ancestry turns out to be true, and you heard the speeches of Hillary Clinton, if you saw who George Soros has been funding, if you saw an army advancing on the southern border and who was encouraging this invasion, and you saw the constant assault upon your Christian values, your family values, you also might snap and become crazy. So I'm telling you on the left to cool it, because if you think this guy is bad, you're mistaken. Bad is not him. You know, there's an old saying in the radio business, and again, I learned it from my first program director. He's now working there again. I used to get death threats in the mail when I first started in radio, and they very deeply upset me because I never had that happen to me. Simply for expressing my views, I was getting death threats. And my program director at KSFO said to me, remember, a flasher never kills. It's the ones you don't see who are the dangerous ones. This guy is like a flasher. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? This guy is like a flasher. Okay? He's not the rapist. The real killers are out there. And if you keep provoking them, what you've seen in the last few days will be seen for what it really is, a Halloween show. So I'm warning you leftists to calm down your rhetoric and stop hating Trump and stop hating America and stop putting us down as right-wing buffoons, because you're going to wind up in real trouble with them. And it's not me. I'm only a talk show host. But I would say there's a couple of 100,000 ex-military, current military, ex-police, current police, militia members who wouldn't be sending Halloween Mickey Mouse bombs if they really wanted to hurt somebody. This is not a threat. I'm giving you a reality check. Loose lips sink ships. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now.
All right, we're going to go back to the serious topic of what we're talking about in a minute, but I'm going to tell you again, if I didn't get a good night's sleep, I wouldn't be able to do this. That's the truth. I'm a great sleeper. And if you think I'm lying to you about sleeping on my Casper mattress, you'd be mistaken. I sleep on it every night because it gives me the best night's sleep, period. When I travel, I don't sleep as well because I don't have the Casper. And it is the high-quality mattress at a very affordable price. You'll sleep cool and comfortably every night because they have a unique combination of foams which provide the right pressure relief and alignment. And this great mattress comes right to your door for free in a small How They Do It box. You don't like it, they'll pick it up and refund you every dime. It's greatly engineered, well packaged. But best of all, try it for 100 nights for free. They have over 35,000 five-star reviews of all their products across Casper, Google, and Amazon. And you know sleeping on a mattress is the best way to try it. We all know that. Would you please put Casper to the test in your home for 100 nights risk-free? Just go to Casper.com, code SAVAGE, and you'll get $50 towards the purchase of select mattresses. That's Casper.com, code SAVAGE, for $50 towards the purchase of select mattresses. Casper.com, terms and conditions apply.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
Oh, my God. 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. 6 ways to Sunday at getting back at you. I wonder if this is one of the ways to Sunday. But those of you who are skeptical about anything that I say today or any other day, I'm going to ask you a question. I would invite your call because I would welcome a rational discussion today. He has a van, which we've all seen. It's covered with stickers, right-wing stickers, if you want to call it that, on all those windows, back windows, side windows, which is illegal in Florida. How in the world can you, for a minute, sit there and tell me that this doesn't look like it's constructed, like it's made up? How can you? The guy would have been stopped in 5 seconds in Wasserman County if he was driving around like that. Wasserman County has laws about obliterating your rear window. You can't drive in Wasserman County with stickers on your rear window and side window without a cop from Wasserman County stopping you. So, and then it says ISIS hunting permit. If you look at one of the stickers closely, it says ISIS hunting permit, no bagging limit, no tagging required. Yet, he made pro-ISIS posts online. There's a lot of misfires here. And I say to you at this time, man and van look like created by Hollywood. It doesn't mean he himself is not a nut. It doesn't mean he's not a useful patsy. But we don't know yet. And someone said, Michael, your description yesterday of the guy they'd pin this on, MAGA hat, Confederate flag, sounds right on the money. Only thing you didn't envision was a van slathered in pro-Trump images. Once again, you were correct. I was, by and large, on the money with that one. And thank you very much for listening to the show so clearly. But, you know, listen, there's something I got to tell you. Whether you're on the left or the right, your minds are made up. There's absolutely nothing that's going to change your minds on anything. It's the independents who have been moved by this, and they've been moved away from the Republican sweep. The left and right is not changing their opinion. The left still thinks that we're liars and all wrong and dangerous, and the right knows the left is all wrong and always filled with liars.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE.
The Kalamazoo
Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation.
And people are asking some questions that the left can't ask because they lack logical faculties. They're so brainwashed. You would think skeptical, intelligent people on the left would say, why is the van so nice and clean? And how could this guy have such a clean white van after such a long drive from Florida, all over New York, Delaware, D.C.? I think he even came out to California to give a few out here. How did they get here? The Postal Service wouldn't accept them. But you people buy it, you know, the way you thought that Barack Hussein Obama was an honest American. You people buy it the same way you think Kamala Harris has gravitas when she's just an empty skirt. You people, you know, I could go down the list. You know, you haven't changed my mind at all. There's just too many unanswered questions for us to jump to conclusions one way or the other here. And the bomber was caught. Great. At least we think he was the bomber. But as I said to you, an early program director said when I was getting hate mail in the beginning of radio, I think he said a flasher doesn't rape. This kind of impotent violence, no matter how disturbing it may be, is impotent violence. The real ones wouldn't give you such a warning. The real ones out there who are capable of these things. So I would say cool the rhetoric. Don't get more agitated now, you people on the left, because you're going to trigger someone who's really going to be bad. Just cool it. Stop categorizing everyone who supports Trump as a knuckle-dragging Neanderthal. Just cut it out, because I know people with really high degrees, very successful people, far beyond anything any of you people on the left could ever imagine, who are avid Republicans who don't love Trump, but they love his message. And if you want to walk around in the delusion that you're superior to everyone who votes Republican, superior to everyone who supports Trump, go ahead and do it. No one's going to change your mind. But this is the kind of stupidity that isn't going to advance this nation in any way. So we just had a scare in America. We see the guy can somehow put package bombs in mailboxes, which unto itself I still don't believe. I have not yet seen a single frame of any video footage of the mailboxes that he allegedly put them in. And until I do, how do we know we can tie this guy to those? How? Why should we buy the story out of whole cloth? So I continue to be skeptical, and I question authority on both sides of the aisle. And I know the Bible says never trust the politicians, so I'm a believer in God, not man. Men come and go. God is eternal. And that's where I'm at. If you want to chime in, go ahead. Make our day. Man and van look created by Hollywood. That's all. And you look at the bumper stickers. How many times do I have to tell you the same thing? Look at the windows on the van. They are obliterated with stickers. You know, call them right-wing or Trump. The rear windows, side windows. He would have been pulled over in 1 second. It looks like it was made in a factory somewhere. If you make a movie of a nut, you'd make a van like this. Polished, and stickers everywhere, pro-Trump, and you'd wheel it out for all the world to see. And people say anyone wearing a MAGA hat today is attacked because of Maxine Waters. How could that van have survived the resistance's wrath without being vandalized? Very suspicious. These are skeptical people. Another one says, another convenient Sirhan job. How deep does the state really go? A little too perfect, it would seem, but who knows? Another one says, I hope his sex life was better than the bombs he made. Oh, come on. That's funny. A little too much like Hollywood and nice and clean. You buy this farce. We don't know if he did it. And I would assume he's a nut. By everything I see in the background, he looks like a deranged nut. And he'll probably go away. And whether he'll survive even a day, we don't know yet. Whether there'll be a Jack Ruby appearing yet, we don't know. But how is this going to affect the midterms? I think is the only productive discussion we can have on the show today. I mean, I could do all the other news. I'm not interested in anything else. None of the other stories matter today. There's not a single story other than the suspect's Trump deal, that he's a bodybuilding Native American Florida strip club worker, steroid problem, made menace celebs on Twitter. Go look at the Drudge Report. You can get it all in a minute. But is it really him? Or is he a patsy? You know? I know that Trump's rhetoric has cooled down already since these started. You do know that. And you can't deny that. And I personally think it's going to have a serious dent in the midterms for the Repubs. Even if people still go out to vote. And that's another question. Will they turn out to even vote now? You know, on the Repub side. As much as they would have before this. Because America is a very centrist right nation. And whether Caesar Sayak will cool that is a real question. You know, now everyone's afraid. Everyone's afraid now to be associated with this kind of personality. WABC David, line 8. Go ahead, please. You're on the Savage Nation.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, it's all about fear and control. I just want to tell you, you know, why I'm a liberal. So I've been listening to you for a long time, and I'm sad that you're not going to be on New York anymore. But the thing I don't like about the...
Well, that's because I'm too real. I mean, you want me to level with you?
Okay.
You don't have to agree with my politics to understand that I'm more New York than anyone in New York.
Well, I just wanted to let you know, like, I just hate when...
Before you go on, are you going to listen to me as a podcaster in January? Because you can.
How do I do that?
It's free. You'll see once it happens. We're going to put the notice out next week. All you got to do is go to michaelsavage.com and hit one button. It goes to 7 different sites.
All right.
And so you'll be able to get the show anyway. Whether the show is broadcast on a station or not is almost irrelevant. I mean, I wish it was on in New York. I have nothing to do with it. They want somebody a little less than me, I guess. But what was your main point, David?
My point is, I was just going to make a point about the van. You said that you question authority, right? But you're always so pro-law enforcement. I don't know.
Wait a minute. Am I always pro-law enforcement? How about when the cops beat up that girl in New Jersey? Where was I on that story? I'm not always pro-law enforcement. How about when they choked that big black guy to death in Staten Island? Which side was I on then?
I don't remember.
Well, I was on the side of the guy who got choked to death at that time. So don't say I'm always pro-law enforcement. There are rogue cops just as there's rogue everything else.
Fair enough. Can I tell you why I'm not a Republican, though?
I don't care, sure.
Okay, I don't like people imposing their morality on me. If I want to smoke a joint, okay, that's not up to the government to tell me what I can put in my own body.
I understand. You're a classic American freedom-loving man. And your assumption is that Republicans want to tell you how to live your life, and it's an easy assumption to make. But actually, the reverse is generally true. It's the Democrats who run the nanny state who tell you what to think, what to eat, what to breathe, whether to use a plastic straw. They are the opposite of the free market Republicans who leave it up to the marketplace. So in the purest form, you're probably a more conservative person than you may imagine.
I know you're a Christian man, and I understand that. But I don't want people...
Well, I'm not a Christian man. I'm Jewish by birth, and I practice my faith, which is largely that of worshiping God. And so you probably don't believe in anything, right?
Didn't say that. I didn't say that. I just don't like people imposing their morality on me. You know what I mean?
Well, no, I don't think anybody does. I certainly don't want a bunch of stuffy old men telling me what I can do with my body.
Exactly.
Does that make me a leftist feminist?
Well, what about this whole law and order thing with Trump? I mean, it's always about law and order, law and order.
Well, I want more law and more order.
Right.
You don't want the streets to be safer in New York?
They are. They're much safer. You know New York. You know how it was back in the day.
Well, I'm sorry. It's not as safe as it could be if the cops were unable to stop people in advance who are running around about to break into a store and punch someone in the face. You know, let's not mince words here. We know what's going on in that city. A lot of it's not even being reported. The cops should have the right to detain someone in advance of their crime, not after the body bag is on the ground.
All right.
You don't read, do you?
Well, I'm not as intelligent as you are, obviously.
No, I'm joking. Do you read books?
Yeah, I do.
I'll send you Stop Mass Hysteria if you want it.
Yeah, I'll absolutely check it out.
Okay, it'll be coming in a plain brown wrapper so your wife or girlfriend is not offended. That opens up one line. At least he's got a good sense of humor. And by the way, he's saying something that most people that I know say the same thing. I know conservatives who don't want anyone telling them what to do with their body, nor imposing their morality. They actually detest the influence of religion upon their lives. They don't like it. They think it's their individual choice, and they're right. They don't want the Pope dictating what they can do and not do, if you know what I'm saying, or such. So, look, the big story today is the sigh of relief in America. On both sides, by the way. Everyone's sighing with relief that no one got hurt. Let's, for 1 second, all settle back. Can we all say we're happy that we could sigh with relief now that this lone wolf nut was found, that he wasn't more dangerous, that he was an impotent man? This is impotence. The devices he sent, according to the best information we can get, were all fake. They couldn't even be detonated. We don't even know what's in them to this minute. What's laughable is that everyone in the Democrat side who wants to be somebody is claiming they got one. They're now announcing new ones are being found all across, because if you didn't get one, you're not on the A list. You don't qualify to even be you have to receive one of these now to be a serious Democrat. You understand that? If you didn't get one, you're just not in the in crowd. I'm expecting more and more and more to be announced very soon. So, look, you can laugh at it if you want. The human condition is laughable in a certain way. No one got hurt. A kind of an impotent nut weightlifter, steroid user was arrested. We can all settle down. We can all agree, thank God, nobody got hurt. So that's it. Now what? Now what do? We go on where we were before. The left still thinks the right look like him, act like him. And the right still thinks that the left is insane and suicidal because of their positions on open borders, on leniency towards criminals, their constant attacks upon patriots. And so I don't know that the battle lines have not been... I think the battle lines are just as drawn as they were before this event. Do you? And how will it affect the midterms? Is it going to change your vote? There's certainly Democrats are not going to change their vote, but I'm going to ask you, the independents out there, and my audience is largely independent. It's not really Republican. I think the Republicans, the knee-jerkers, probably listen to Wallbanger. They don't have to think that way. It's a nice knee-jerk response. I would say I generally get the independent voter more than anyone else. So you, the audience of my show, The Savage Nation, you who follow me and buy my books and such, is this going to affect your vote in just a few days? That's the only question I have. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Now, observing the TV during the breaks while I'm doing the radio show, just like you are, everyone's watching and listening stuff, you know. We want to glean the last little speck of information about the bomber or the van. So I noticed the van, it's like brand new. It's like a shiny used van. All the bumper stickers and stuff, the slogans are all not faded from the Florida sun, which is pretty amazing. I like to find out which company makes those kind of stickers that don't fade in the sun. And I also noticed that there's a large blue, what do they call those? Those blue things, like you use them for furniture when it rains. You know, the thing, it was ready to go. It's made exactly for the van. I understand it's an option now on used vans, and it comes attached to the left side of the car so that you can use it as an awning in wet weather, or after your bombing mission is through and you're arrested by the FBI, you can flip it right over the van to protect the paint while it's in custody and being examined. That's going to be a new option on used car lots. Is that little blue awning that comes with the car. I've never trusted people who drive vans like that in California. I avoid them on the highway. Always look crazy to me, with or without the bumper stickers. Anyone in a van like that I know is something's wrong in there. I know, I offended probably 90% of my audience. No, but, you know, look, you got to laugh a little bit at the whole thing. Can't we take a breath and relax today? That they got a nut. No one got hurt. He made a bomb out of something that looks like a cannoli with a wire and a clock. Everyone says it doesn't even look like a bomb to them. And it looks like a cannoli, like a hardened cannoli that sat in the sun too long with like a wire attached to a baby clock. What was the actual substance inside those things? Does anyone know? People were saying it looked like white powder or it didn't look like C4. Nobody really knows, and no one knows why there's no surveillance footage of whoever put the devices in the mailboxes, whether it's in Soros's estate. You know, we all know one thing in this case. Thank God nobody got. And number two, as I said to you many times, this guy, as crazy as he may look, was provoked by the rhetoric of the very people he hated. You know, you could say, well, you're justifying what he did. How dare you do that? No, I'm telling you how he thinks. If you're a guy on the bottom and you're poor and you have very scarce opportunity in this country and you see a party of Democrats who have written you off and said you don't exist, they call you names, they ridicule you, they call you every name under the sun, and they give you no opportunity. And you see people brought into this country given every possible opportunity and benefit, and they step ahead of you online. You know what makes you crazy? Do you understand that? I'm a long way from being on the bottom of society, but I know how they think. Because I know what it's like to be stepped on. I also know what it's like to be stepped on and pushed out. I know what it's like to work hard and get nothing for it. Now, take a guy at 56 who has achieved nothing in his life, and he's ridiculed by Hillary Clinton, who calls him a deplorable. He is laughed at by George Soros, who thinks he's a Nazi. He is mocked by Debbie Wasserman Schultz and all of the others. So the hatred builds in his head. So I'm saying to you, maybe this is a learning experience for everyone. And maybe you people on the so-called left could just cool it for a while and stop demeaning and putting down everyone who loves America and wants our borders, language, and culture to be maintained. All right, so he fits the image of a Trump superfan, so that makes the left feel superior. He's sort of a dummy who uses steroids, and he's a weightlifter, muscle-bound, a loser, makes no money. So everyone who has a little something on the left feels superior to him, right out of central casting. And then the van fits the picture. It's not a new car. It's not like an ad for like a Subaru with a happy couple, you know, you know the ads. Like you have to have one of those cool cars that goes to a cliffside every day for another tenting experience. The whole thing doesn't look right, you know. I mean, I'm a skeptic. I've been skeptical since I'm a young guy, and I don't like the picture yesterday. Do I think he could have been the one? Yeah, he's the type, sure. He fits the image, which is why I don't think he may have been alone or did it all on his own. How did he get from Katona, New York to Wasserman Schultz in California all in one day in that van? How did he get around? Did he drive the country back? I mean, there's no like dirt on the car. Say, well, he mailed it. Come on, don't be stupid. Did he mail it? How come the stamps weren't postmarked? Are we not allowed to ask the questions? Can someone please satisfy these questions for me? So let's get past all of this, because I don't think we're going to hear much more about this. And I pray to God there's no Jack Ruby in Central Casting waiting to pop up any minute now. If you're an independent, and that's my audience is largely independents. Republicans listen to a certain extent. I get a lot of left-wingers who listen in the Bay Area, and even in, I would say, some markets around the country, because they don't get anyone who triggers their thinking. And I remind them of someone in their family who doesn't talk to them anymore because they're so bigoted. So at least they get a chance to listen to this opinion of mine. And then they make up their own decision. No one's minds are generally changed at this point. Adults generally make up their minds, and they're almost impossible to change. But if you're an independent and you haven't made up your mind for the election, has this little experience with the bomber story changed your mind? Will this impact your voting in just a few days? KFAY Radio, Jeff on line 3. Is this going to change your mind in any way?
Savage. Prior to this year, I'd consider myself an independent. But this year, with the rhetoric that's been out there, I'm voting straight Republican ticket. And today reassures me that I'm doing the right thing. And watching the channels, they continue to say that Donald Trump needs to apologize for what...
Oh, is that what they're saying now? Oh, so now it's his fault?
Oh, yeah.
No, I would say it's their fault for triggering this poor man.
I agree 100% with you.
Let's say for a minute that he really did send these impotent little devices, and that he's a loser on the bottom in plain English. Mm-hmm. Why do you think he chose these targets? Because they are exactly the type that are making him feel smaller than he already is.
I definitely agree with you. My analogy of it is that, if you hear your mom say something about the neighbors, you pretty much just take that with a grain of salt that that's your mom's opinion. But if you hear the neighbors say that they want people to go out and abuse your mom, to catch your mom at a restaurant and scream in her face, to catch her at the ball and scream in her face, you're probably much going to punch them in the face.
So you're saying the Maxine Waters inciting violence, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder saying when they go low, we kick them. You think that triggered this man?
Absolutely. I mean, Trump had zero to do with what this guy did. I think he was just fighting back.
All right. So, he is a fighter and he fights for us. But are you saying as an independent, you're still voting Republican, hasn't changed your vote at all, right?
Correct.
All right. You're getting a copy of Stop Mass Hysteria because I can see you're not hysterical. 855-400-7282. Did he mail the packages? No. The stamps were not stamped, postmarked, number one. Number two, any package like this is caught by machines in the Postal Service or by manually caught. They wouldn't send these over. So how did these so-called devices get into the mailboxes of CNN, whatever his name is, George Soros up there in Katona, and such? How did they get there? And why is there no? I'm going to keep repeating this. Why is there no surveillance footage of any of the mailboxes when the devices were put there? They have round-the-clock security. Hillary Clinton has Bill, I don't know who was in the house at the time. They have Secret Service on the premises, cameras up the trees, cameras in the sky, high in the sky. The NSA has cameras today with such resolution they could see the hair on your nostril. They could see your nostril hair if they want to focus on it. And we still don't have one frame of any individual putting these devices in mailboxes. So I remain skeptical, incidentally. The only question is, will it hurt the Republican Party in the midterms? That's all anyone's really going to ask themselves. There's nothing else. Now, is there any other news out there that we should be talking about instead? Not really. Everyone's sighing with relief today. We got the van. And again, before you turn the show off, Freddie, say you heard it all, take one message home, please. Take this home. The guy has a van. He has a classic molester van that we all know to avoid. We see a van like this coming up to a school bus stop, we call the police. So the man has a classic molester van, and instead of the windows just being blacked out, they're covered with Trump stickers, including the rear and side rear windows, which are illegal in Wasserman County, where he lives. You can't have a van like that in Wasserman County without the police pulling you over. The Wasserman police would have pulled him over in 1 second. So how could you take this like whole? How could you swallow this whole that something's not wrong with the picture? Yes, he's a nut. Yes, he was involved. But did he do it all alone? And how could he have a van like this? The van part of it throws me off. Okay, they found his fingerprints on the impotent devices. Good, I'm glad. Fingerprint DNA lead to Florida man's arrest and bomb sent to Trump critics. All right, so they got the guy who put his fingers on him. That's good. Okay. What about the possibility of further arrests? We don't know. They arrested Syak in Plantation, Florida. They hauled away his molester van, plastered with pro-Trump stickers and the slogan, CNN sucks. CNN loves that. And images of Democratic figures with red crosshairs over their faces. This is central casting. Man and van. If Hollywood would have done this, couldn't have done a better job. If you were doing a grade B movie and you wanted to, do something that's not even plausible, you'd get this nut job and you'd create a van like this, and that would be like a grade B movie at night, like something you'd see on Netflix, right? A classic white supremacist. There's one part missing, though, to the whole picture. He's not a white supremacist. That's the part that throws me off. Either he is a Native American or he's a Philippine origins. We don't know yet. But that he's not a cracker like McVeigh. This is the part that throws me off. No blonde, blue-eyed guy they couldn't find? How'd they get this guy? This is the part that throws me off. There's almost something in it for everyone here. He's not white. He's not blonde. He's not blue-eyed. So something's missing in the picture. Maybe they couldn't find a patsy to fit that who was willing to take the payout. Maybe they couldn't find anyone willing to take the fall for a... come on, I'm just pulling your leg here. How do we know who else is involved here? According to the records, you're a registered Republican, lengthy criminal past, blah, blah, blah. So you left now can celebrate tonight. You can break out your antidepressant pills and share them over dinner tonight, along with your other medications. You can sigh with relief that everyone who doesn't look like you in New York is definitely a Nazi. And yet, here's another question Steve is asking. The feds got him within a few days, yet no resolution on Vegas. Huh? How do you like that? In Vegas, we still don't know why the man was shooting like that from the window, right? No resolution. There's a couple of other unsolved mysteries that we don't know why the FBI hasn't found them yet. So we can move on, but there's no other news. No one wants to talk about anything else. You want to talk about the economy, the market, what's going on in the economy? It's a big story. Give me 1 minute on it, because money is everything. I found this the other day. It's very important. I got this from Craig Smith of Swiss America. Yes, he's an advertiser. Yes, he sells gold. Yes, he's a friend of mine who supported the show for 16 years. But he said to me, Michael, Chapter 7 of your book, Stop Mass Hysteria, will be the playbook on the largest financial crisis ever, not just our lifetime. You point out the dozens of financial missteps in our history. Frankly, sharing things I didn't got. People need your book if they want to save their country and life savings. There are so many cracks in the system. You will see a crisis any day now. You're right. I can feel it. You can feel it. We sense it. Everyone is holding their breath. The cracks are getting longer and deeper daily. And he sent that to me on Monday, October 22nd, after my show. And unfortunately, the market's been falling this week. Up, it was down, up one day, and now down again. And the scare is starting to jitter the markets, by the way. And people are asking, have we reached that point finally of the collapse? Because people are panicked right now. So now the big question is political. Will the Dems take the House? Will they take the Senate? Are the Republicans through? This is all that anyone's asking themselves. I myself am not going to change my vote because of a lone wolf nut with a tarp and a van, a steroid job. I'm not changing my vote because of the nut. I don't feel like guilty that I did something wrong here. In fact, I think the opposite is true. I feel bad for the guy, if you want to know the truth. A man this lost, a man this poor, a man this weak, a man this vulnerable, right? What do you think he feels when he's called deplorable? What do you think he feels as he sees an army marching in on the southern border, knowing that they will receive every benefit the society has to offer and then some, while he is ejected and called every name under the sun? Tell me what you would do if you were a man like him. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. There is justification for this kind of insanity in the minds of those who are weak-minded. And so, therefore, you better rethink your social welfare policies. They're liable to trigger a lot more than just this guy if things really collapse. We have the lowest level since July in the Dow. If this economy ever tanks and the economy dries up that Trump created, guys like this are going to come out of the woodwork and then some. And then you're going to really see some bad things here. We cannot take any more people into the lifeboat. The American lifeboat is full of poor people, untreated people in hospitals, VA hospitals. No, we can't take an army of 20,000 illegal aliens from Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. No, we cannot. And so the open borders policies of the left continue to be unchanged, and I don't think they're going to change their tune before the election. And I don't think that any leftists are going to vote on the right, and I don't think any people on the conservative side are going to vote on the left. But I do still think that independents, unfortunately, are going to flee from the Republican ticket in November.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or Swift. I've told you this before, but, if you have a car that has 5,000 to 150,000 miles, you don't really have to pay high repair bills, even though you might do so if you don't get what I'm about to tell you. CarShield, they have paid out close to $2 billion in claims, and they're ready to help you. And so if you take your car in and all of a sudden they say, oh, it's got metal filings or the carburetor's shot, or worse yet, you're going to pay thousands of dollars. That's why you got to get extended vehicle protection from CarShield, right? We know what these things can cost today. A sensor alone could be $1,000 or more. But you also get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car while yours is being fixed for free. So you can save yourself thousands in future car repairs, get covered by the ultimate and extended vehicle protection. All you have to do is call 800-CAR-6100, 800-CAR-6100, and please mention code SAVAGE or go to carshield.com, again, code SAVAGE, and you'll save 10% on their policy. You can't do without it. That's carshield.com, code SAVAGE, or call 800-CAR-6100 and mention code SAVAGE. A deductible may apply. And now the news. Now, I just got an email. What you said about the bomber, Sayak, was brilliant. We should have empathy for someone so beaten down, being called a deplorable. He lost hope. You know, that's an important point to remember. I don't think anyone in the media is going to have any sympathy for this guy. The standard line is, we all agree this shouldn't happen. Well, of course we all agree this shouldn't happen. But I want to put you in the mind of a guy on the bottom, if he is actually the perp, let's say. You have nothing. You have nothing to lose. And the left wing is flooding America with illegal aliens who are going to steal the few remaining threads of social welfare that remain for you. You're a strong guy in your own heart, but you're really insignificant in society. And you're called every name under the sun. You're laughed at. You're like a worm to a guy like George Soros. They all think you're some unwashed Nazi. You start to build up your hatred. You know, how many movies do you have to see about people on the bottom till you finally understand that if, you know what Goethe said, the great 19th century German poet, when he said, if you take a man as he is, you make him worse. If you take a man as he could be, you can make him better. I never forgot that. And when I raised children, and children will act up and do terrible things sometimes. Take your car for a joyride while you're sleeping, race it on Sunrise Highway and bring it back with the clutch slipped. You can get mad at your kid and you could scream at him and call him every name under the sun. What's he going to do? He's going to get worse. He's going to get his back up and become even more rebellious. So I'm warning you leftists, especially Maxine Waters. She doesn't listen to this show. She's got to be told to shut her mouth and stop provoking hatred towards everyone on the other side of the aisle. All of you on the left who think that you won a victory today, it's a short-won victory. You didn't really win a victory here in this situation. What you've done here is expose yourself for the provocateurs that you are. And the more you put down people on the right by calling them names, deplorable and whatnot, the more you're going to provoke people like this, only the next ones may be a little more potent than him, which is a terrible, terrible thing to imagine. And as I said to you, flashers don't rape. And there are a lot of people in this country who are so fed up with the machinations of the left, with dissolving our borders, with spitting on our culture, with the perversion that is offered as normalcy in our schools, the filth and violence coming out of Hollywood. Don't trigger them. You should not trigger them, mocking them. They're very dangerous.
Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show
is Mambo Friday on the Savage Nation. It's actually Salsa Friday. Play it for me. I got to hear some music. I got to clear my head out. The chatter is starting to get to me. They got this poor schmuck, this impotent guy on the bottom, this loser, who couldn't even, make a bomb that worked. I mean, thank God. I'm saying it like it is. No one got hurt. There's cause for celebration here, but there's also cause for reflection. Here's a guy on the bottom, a loser, who identifies his strength with that of an America he wishes existed. He identifies with a stronger America, and he then wraps himself up in the flag and in Trump and in the whole right-wing thing, and it gives him an identity. We all know how this works. We've all read all the psychology of this. And on the other side, you have people like Hillary Clinton who call him every name under the sun. Deplorable. We know what the liberals think of him. Dumb, unwashed, stupid, loser. He knows what they think of him. So he lives down there in Florida in Wasserman County, and he drives around in a van that's covered with stickers, and that's the part of it I don't believe. It's a little too convenient. You know, as I said earlier, it's the man in the van. Looks like created by Hollywood. If it was a grade B movie, grade C movie on Netflix of like a nut who was going to send bombs, you would do that kind of van with those stickers on it with this kind of guy, right? The only missing thing is the van doesn't look right because of the stickers on the rear window and the side windows. He couldn't drive for 1 second in Wasserman Schultz County. He'd be pulled over. So that doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. Sorry. That's number one. Number two, does it add up that he's not a white male with blonde hair and blue eyes like Timothy McVeigh? How did it turn out that he's either Seminole Indian or Philippine origins? It doesn't add up. That's the one thing that's impeding Hillary Clinton from shooting off her high heel, from rapping him on the head with it, because they don't know what to do with that picture. This is very odd. There's a couple of elements that just don't make sense again. And so I got to keep asking the same questions. I don't think that you'll hear these questions on Neil Prosciutto's show on Fox. I don't think Nip and Tucker will ask these questions. I don't think America's Anchorham asked these questions today. But you're relying upon me to be kind of your eyes, ears, and voice. So I'm asking the questions. I'm also, I know it's probably odd for you to think, do I have sympathy for the bomber? I have compassion for him. I have compassion because I think the guy is a classic loser who's been kicked around all his life. He's not made anything out of his life. And he feels humiliated by the American left. And in feeling humiliated, he becomes increasingly dangerous, which again is a lesson for all of you very intelligent leftists. You keep marginalizing, humiliating, putting down people on the right. What's going to happen is a real bomber is going to appear. And the real ones you'll never see in advance. You don't see them coming. And I think it's time for all of us, if you really want to know the truth, to cool the rhetoric. Mainly you on the left. Because my rhetoric, if you analyze it, is always about America. It's always about a stronger America. And they're based upon real observations about what's been done to erode this nation. Don't you dare tell me that bringing in 30 or 40 million illegal aliens over the last 10 or 20 years by the Democrat Party has actually strengthened this country, because I would tell you you're a liar. If you look at the welfare rolls, the demographics of the welfare rolls, if you look at the schools in America, and let's look at California, which I know a lot about. I live here. When I moved here in 1975, one of the reasons I moved here is because I was a poor grad student with 2 young children, and I had to go back to school to get my higher degrees while working, while writing books. And I moved here because I knew the kids could get a great education in California's public schools and high schools and then colleges. I knew that they could go to any level they wanted, and I was right. And we once had the highest scores in the nation in this state. And then what happened? Liberalism is what happened. And where are the scores in California now? Where are the scores in other states that have been seeing influxes of illiterate people from the third world? Because you're not bringing in people from the third world who are even literate in their own language. I'm sorry to tell you that. There's a huge difference in bringing in a non-English speaking person who is literate in his or her own language. But you are bringing in people who are illiterate even in their own language. They can't even read or write in their own language. Now, how does that strengthen a nation? It doesn't, which is exactly why the Democrats want them. They want millions of ignoramuses that can easily be swayed and manipulated in order to advance their socialist agenda. And I'm saying that categorically, advance their socialist agenda. I, for one, am not a socialist. My grandfather fled socialist Russia, and he came to America for the freedoms that I enjoy. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I want to see what George Soros wants for this country. I do not. I'm not going to tell you that I don't think that Hillary Clinton is wrong and all of the other denizens of the left are the right way to go. I think they're all 100% wrong. 100% wrong. There's not even a scintilla of truth in anything they say. They are cynical, and they only say these things in order to amass more voters and to increase the welfare state. That's so clear to anyone who's actually studied world history. And so it brings us back again to this impotent little guy, this mad bomber here, who didn't, the man who couldn't bomb straight, so to speak. You know, what were these bombs? What were they made of? And how did he get them all over the country in such a short period of time? You know, is he a Philippine? Does it matter whether his family is really from the Philippines and they were involved in fighting the Communist Party of the Philippines? On his LinkedIn page, Sayak says that his grandfather, Colonel Baltazar Zook Sayak, was a martial arts practitioner who developed his own style of fighting called Sayak Kali. And this style was used to fight the Communist Party of the Philippines in hand-to-hand combat. And there's actually a detailed website about the fighting style. So what does that have to do with anything? It has a lot to do with everything. If that is true about this guy, so he's in America now, and he sees a communist movement growing by the day, by leaps and... You think I'm making this up? Didn't Bernie Sanders say he's a Democrat socialist? Don't we all know what that really means? Don't we know that those are code words for outright government control over every aspect of your life from cradle to grave? We're pretty far along with that already, aren't we? How different are we than most socialist nations? We're only a hairbreadth away from losing it all. What really differentiates this nation from socialist nations when you actually analyze it? Only a very few things. One, our Second Amendment, our right to bear arms. None of the socialist nations permit the people to bear arms because that's the last linchpin in controlling a population. Was it Hitler, or which is the one who said, one man with a gun can control 100 men without a gun? Remember that one? I don't know who that was. Lenin? Wasn't it Lenin who said the object of socialism is communism? Of course it was. So, you know, those who do not know the history are condemned to repeat it. I know my history. Luckily, I'm well educated, and I know the history of the left wing in the world and in America. So now, let's boil it down. Here's a guy, uneducated guy on the bottom, weightlifter, steroid user, typical insecure male. Usually insecure males are weightlifters and steroid users. I've known that since I'm 15 years old. I remember when I was a young weightlifter in Queens, New York, I went to what was then a new group called, a new gym. I used to go to the gym fanatically after high school. It was called American Health Studios. They were new in those days. I mean, before that, you had barbells in your basement from like Joe Weider that you used in the cold. I had them too. I've worked out since I'm a little kid. I was always like small and wiry and very strong. So I started to go to the gym, the American Health Studios, and I saw a lot of guys that had enormous arms and legs, and they were like weird looking, but they were all on drugs of some kind. And I remember trying to build myself up to look like one of these guys. And a girl said to me, it was in high school, I swear to God, some of these girls were so smart. She said something along the line. She said, don't you know that all weightlifters are insecure? It like cut through me like a knife. I said, wow, man, she's really onto something. All weightlifters are insecure. It's true to this day. Well, by the way, no, I'm not knocking it. Keep lifting weights. All weightlifters are insecure is what she said. Okay, so let's put that on the side for a minute. So now you got this guy who's an avid weightlifter, muscle-bound, steroids, muscle shirt, and he has nothing else to hang his masculinity on other than nationalism. So now enter the madness. How does the madness enter the man's brain? Well, the madness is that he's called every name under the sun. He feels humiliated. He feels small. He knows that the people that he hates are the ones who look down upon him, the elites, so to speak. He fears that the last shred of dignity that he has will be taken away from him by those people. So something in his brain changes. His brain changes. You don't have to be a psychiatrist to agree with every word I just said. And what am I leading to? What I'm leading to is the left is triggering a lot of people now into these kind of acts, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better if they don't stop. And when you see these mobs incited by Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, and they are inciting them. We're all deplorable, says Nancy Pelosi. When you see these mobs threaten men like this MAGA bomber, if you want to call him that. He feels more and more threatened by the mobs, so he gets increasingly mad in his brain. And that's the cycle that you have to break. And so you can blame anybody you want. The left is already blaming Trump, which is ludicrous, because it's just as easy to lay blame at the foot of CNN, which is around-the-clock hatred, not only of Trump. I got to repeat this. Jeff Zucker, whatever his name is, who runs CNN, you could just as soon say he triggered this man as you could say Donald Trump did. If you have an around-the-clock array of puppets on your network, like CNN and MSNBC do, who are constantly mocking, ridiculing, putting down Trump and his supporters, never forget that when you put down Trump to these guys, like this guy, you're attacking him. And when you continue to demonize Trump like you do, what you're doing is you're triggering men like this on the bottom. Do you think that this is going to make Jeff Zucker stop for 1 second? No. Neither do I.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400.
And look, the thing to remember today, no matter which side you are on this situation of the bomber thing, is that if you, let's say you're a Republican, the good news is he's only one 1,024th Republican. So you don't have to be too ashamed of that fact. He's a very, very small, minute amount Republican. Only 1 out of 1,024 parts Republican. So you don't have to take too much personal blame for this. But on a more serious note, you know, if you take a man who's poor and you tell him he's a poor man and a loser, what does that make the man? Happier and stronger? Makes him resentful and angry. You take a fat person and you ridicule that boy and call him fat and you bully him. In essence, what the left has been doing is bullying the downtrodden in this country, which is how Trump came to power to begin with. I know that's said very quietly. The left has been bullying the downtrodden in this country for so long, and I mean specifically the downtrodden male in particular, for so long. And especially the white male, the white race, has been picked on by the left. Somehow that's become the MO of the whole Democrat Party, which is still ruled, by the way, by white people, even though they make believe that they represent others. It's really sickening. They are very racist. So they keep demonizing whites, white male, white male, white male. Now, even though the man is either a Filipino or of Seminole origin, he identifies as a white male. I don't know if you understand that. And it incites his anger and his rage. So if he actually did this, it makes him crazier and crazier and crazier. Again, if you keep putting a person down, they become angrier and more psychotic, as it were. So if you want to keep up the rhetoric, if you want Jeff Zucker not to be controlled, go ahead, keep it up. Keep it up. Keep demonizing everyone who supports Trump. Now, having said that, I got to tell you, who's ever managing the Trump campaign should be fired. For him to go forward with a rally tonight in Charlottesville, North Carolina, is about the most ignorant thing I've ever seen in all the years I've supported Donald Trump. Can you imagine anything more flat-footed than this? He's holding a rally in just a short period of time at the very site where there was a riot last year or 2 years ago and a girl was run over by a car, and it's been held up like a whole thing now for years by the radical left, the Communist Party USA, whatever you want to call them. Why would he go to a city which makes him an even easier target for Zucker and company? You're telling me they're not going to show Confederate flags tonight? And watch, you ready? They got the B-roll running. They got the B-roll ready for tonight. There's the B-roll. All right, get out the B-roll tonight when he's speaking. Run the B-roll behind him of Confederate flags. All right. All right, get the B-roll of the Ku Klux Klan there burning something. All right, get the B-roll of the car in the crowd. All right. All right, there's Jeff Zucker sweating in the background like the pig he is. All right, run the B-roll and the C-roll now every time he speaks. You don't understand how cynical and evil these people really are, do you? You have no idea that they would burn the country to the ground for a ratings point, do you? You think that it's just a political orientation? You're mistaken. So you watch and see tonight. One of the most idiotic things I've ever seen is going to occur tonight. I would have canceled the rally. If I were managing Trump, and I'm not, I would say, no, listen to me. This is too incendiary a time. Cancel the rally tonight and say it's in honor of the people who were so rudely, let's say, frightened or attacked by this man. In honor of them, we're going to bypass the rally tonight. That would have not given Jeff Zucker and all the vermin in the left media any fuel to their fire. But tonight, watch and see if I'm wrong again. Confederate flags on the B-roll, the girl being run over on the B-roll, Ku Klux Klan a little thrown in from the 1930s. Watch, all behind Trump, run by the most evil people in the history of this nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400.
That was a long break. I finally got back. I almost missed the cue. Welcome back to the program here. Mail bomb suspect threatened to unleash attack worse than 9/11. This came out 30 minutes ago in the New York Post by Chris Perez. The suspected Florida mail bomber once threatened to blow up his local utility company, telling a rep it would be worse than 9/11 if they ever turned off his electricity, according to cops. The defendant contacted a rep from Florida Power and Light, a Miami police report reads. Cesar Sayak contacted the company by telephone and threatened to blow up the FP&L building in August of 2002, the report states. He also threatened that something would happen to the FP&L representative if they cut off his electricity. Well, authorities wrote up the incident as a threat to bomb and threatened to discharge destructive device. Sayak later pled guilty and got sentenced to 1 year probation. The New York native, they say he was born in Brooklyn. You know, there's so many confusing elements. Seminole Indian, Philippines, now Brooklyn. It's hard to follow. But he has been arrested multiple times, crimes including grand theft, battery, drug possession, and fraud. But he's a threatener. He uses his Twitter account to target prominent Democrats. He even threatened former NFL turncoat anti-American Colin Kaepernick with a picture of a beheaded goat saying, "See you real soon." Court records show that Sayak had been living with his mom in Aventura. He's 56 years old. You hear this? He was reportedly working as a store manager of an investment company in Hollywood, Florida. But police report from O2 lists his occupation as dry cleaning. So look, again, a man on the bottom, very unstable, very insecure, hides behind steroids and weightlifting, and then hides behind kind of crypto false nationalism, not even really understanding it that well. And he is put down by Hillary Clinton, Maxine Waters. All of the left continue to defame him as a person, humiliate him in essence, calling him names, deplorable, anything you want to say, knuckle dragger. This is what they do on MSNBC, sneer all the time. So he watches things like this and he hates them. You remember the movie Taxi Driver many years ago by my favorite my non-favorite actor, Robert De Niro? Remember in Taxi Driver, the guy builds up he gets crazier and crazier and crazier in that Scorsese script as it unfolds. He gets more insane, shaves his head, and then becomes a killer. That was actually a pretty good portrait of the development of a psychosis in a person. Many people are marginal. They're on the edge, but they don't actually act out, right? We all know that in our own self. Speak for yourself. We all know that we have elements in us that we like to control, right? That's what makes us human. And most of us control it most of the time. And then there is a series of events or a catastrophic event in our life, and we go over the edge, and then we become insane. God knows how it acts out, whatever it may take, whatever form. So if you keep denigrating and calling people like this on the bottom, let's say they're poor, but they're not a Democrat, so they're the worst kind to the left. The worst kind to the left would be an ethnic man who's poor and who's a Trump supporter. They're the very antithesis of the Democrat message. They're supposed to be for the Democrats, so promising them everything. So they hate a guy like this. And they could trigger him by calling him every name under the sun, so he gets crazier and crazier, right? How the FBI caught suspected mail bomber, blah, 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 blah. So it'll be over by Monday. Alleged mail bomber apparently turned van into a Trump shrine. There are questions about the van that will remain unanswered, except I'm going to ask them again. How could this van, if it was really his, have had these stickers all over the back and side windows without having been pulled over? Can you explain that to me? Because if you live in Wasserman County, as he did, if you live in Wasserman County in Florida, you'd be pulled over. If you had a van with windows that were blacked out with posters like this, you would. So it doesn't make sense to me, you know? This just doesn't make sense. And then I'm going to repeat again. Oh, by the way, second migrant caravan forming at Guatemala-Mexico border. Another mob is coming in. Wait till you see that emerges over next week. Wow. You talk about a hysteria. This is provoking a lot. By the way, I want to go back to that for a minute. If you were a poor, downtrodden person in this country, and you saw an army of 20,000 people coming into the southern border, egged on by the entire Democrat cabal, You could go insane saying the country's being invaded and they're behind the invasion. They're going to take away the few precious resources that I get from this country. Here's a guy, a loser, living with his mother, 56 years old, never got anywhere in life. He takes out all of his identity is in his muscles and the identity with the nation in some way, you know, like a crypto nationalism, not a real nationalism. He is almost an actor on the stage of nationalism. He doesn't truly understand the strength of the nation. He sees only the images of the strength of the nation. And so you take the 20,000 marching toward our border, and he's afraid. Whatever few resources he gets from the country, the nation, are going to diminish or be taken away from him altogether. See, this is triggering. And then you see who's supporting the migrant hordes. Who wants them here? The entire Democrat machine. So he digs his heels in. He becomes even crazier. And so you have to understand how these things work and what gears are in play in the minds of these people. And you're lucky that you have me to explain it to you, because I understand all sides of an argument. I always have been able to see things in a multidimensional fashion. Now, that's not a spectrum thing. It's called intelligence. Many people say, oh, that's a spectrum thing. That's an inside joke for those of you on the spectrum. It's not really a spectrum thing. It's called an intelligence that can see many aspects of a thing, you know? So if you want to comment on what's going on, you can on any side. But my big question is, how is this going to affect the midterms? Will it affect the election? If you are an independent, will you stay away from the polls because of this, for fear that you're going to be associated with Donald Trump and with the Republicans? Or, on the other hand, is it making you dig your heels in more, saying it has nothing to do with me? Huh? Answer the question if you don't mind. Is this an example of one guy bringing down a party? Even though it was impotent violence, it was a threatened violence. And again, going back to what I said earlier in the week, trust me, I know what I said. I said there was a high probability of a false flag event. I did not say it was certain. But even having said that, there are elements of this story that don't add up, such as the van and the stickers on the windows. I don't know how that is even possible. Everyone I know said the same thing. Young guys who worked for me immediately picked up on the stickers on the van. They said, okay, run this through your head. You're a smart leftist, okay? Run this through your head. Just for a minute. Don't even call the show. How come these stickers look like they're brand new? The Trump stickers and whatnot. Wouldn't they fade in the Florida sun? They would be faded, curled, yellowed, right? No, they're like brand new. Printed somewhere. And stuck on the window. Something, few elements here not right. Just not right. Right? So, that's it. I mean, you want to comment? I'm open here. I'm live and national. Not live and local. I'm live and national. Right now, everything's like live and local. I don't know about you, but I kind of like a national show. So I'm live and national on the Savage Nation. And the MAGA bomb suspects in custody. Everyone can sigh with relief now. Soros can go back to plotting the overthrow of America. De Niro can go back to imitating a guy who hates Trump and come up with new words other than mook, bum, a mutt. Maxine Waters can say, instead of chasing men like him out of a gas station, chase him down with a tire iron, or whatever she's going to come up with. You notice Hillary's been very polite and quiet now, even though she knows she called men like this deplorable and triggered him. So, who do you blame? Blame who you want. Blame who you want. Carlos on KSFO line 8, what's your subject?
Dr. Savage, I agree with you that the left are really manufacturing disenfranchisement. And as a first-generation American, my parents were political refugees from Havana, Cuba. The thing about it is with this particular incident about this alleged bomber, is that I agree with you in concert to what you were saying about Trump not showing up in North Carolina.
Oh my God, is that an error or what? Wait until you see what they do. They'll make hay out of that tonight.
But here's the problem with that too, is that I agree with that. And if I were Trump, I would play this thing with this alleged really, really quietly, and I would also try and be overt and say, look, we're going to offer more protection for all of these political, Democratic foes and things like that. Because the thing about it is that if he keeps quiet on the tweeting, and the longer that this airplay on this alleged, what we're trying to discover here about this alleged bomber, if the media doesn't regulate their coverage on the discovery of this bomber, it could actually end up helping Trump as long as he keeps his nose clean, because my concern is this caravan, we're going to have a crescendo right now, and it's going to climax just hours before the election. And there they're going to show all of the National Guard, and they're going to pin it on Trump. And the whole thing is just going to create this media madness. What the narrative is, look at this guy, Trump. Look what he's doing. Look at the unhumanitarian effort that he's...
Well, that's why they have to be stopped by the Mexican military in Mexico and not be allowed within hundreds of miles of the border. They cannot be permitted to get near the border. They need to be stopped in Mexico, because if they get near the border, the people behind this march, and make no mistake about it, there's a description in very clear detail of people who have organized this, will run women and children in baby carriages against the troops. They'll run them first. And the strapping young men in new outfits and clean sneakers will not be in the front of that line. It'll be women and children, which would be a disaster for this nation and a disaster for those of us who believe in the integrity of the nation. May I send you a copy of Stop Mass Hysteria? You're a very intelligent man. I certainly know you'd love reading this. So there's a lot. Thank you very much. There's a lot of elements to this that remain unanswered, and I don't think we're ever going to get the answers, frankly. It seems to be a bit of a constructed farce in some ways, the fall guy. I'm sure he has a background like this. Okay, let's run it another way. Let's put our heads together. If you had to find a villain for this who sent these bombs that didn't... I don't know if they're even bombs, what they are. They look like cannolis with wires and a clock. I don't know what they are. Hardened cannolis that were left out in the sidewalk. Who knows if they were bombs or not, right? Let's pray they were nothing. But the guy did send them, let's say. How did he send them? Answer the question for me. How'd they arrive at all these locations almost simultaneously, with the exception of those out of state? How? How'd they get there since the mail didn't accept them? Tell me how. And the stamps were not postmarked, as we covered on the show for 2-3 days now. So that's number 2. Van. Posters and stickers on the back of the van and the side windows. Obliterating the view, violating Florida law. How was he not stopped? Explain it to me, please. It doesn't look right. It just looks too convenient. It looks like Central Casting 101 for a third-rate movie. If you were making a movie about some nut who was going to attack some innocent Democrat politicians just before an election, could you do better than writing the storyline of a guy with a molester van with stickers like this all over it? I couldn't. So I don't. Some of the stuff doesn't add up. But who actually wins from this? Does America really win from this terrible thing we've been through since the beginning of the week? Does anyone feel stronger as a result of this? Does anyone feel happier? Is anyone thrilled other than Jeff Zucker at CNN, whose ratings went up? Is anyone other than the people in the television media who've been showing nonstop the cannolis with the wires and this? Who is actually happy about this? I'm certainly not happier. I'm not happier. It makes you sad to think that we fall into this level, that you have a party on the left that would not only destroy this country on a daily basis, but then demonize anyone who doesn't want the nation destroyed, calling us Nazis, fascists, Ku Klux Klan. And, you know, people who are strong like me take it, and we take it with a grain of salt, and we go on. We keep doing what we do. But the people on the bottom, like this guy Sayak, whatever his name is, Cesar Sayak Jr., they don't go on that way. They don't adjust that way. They marinate in the hatred that you're unleashing on them, the humiliation that you inflict upon them, the threats that you inflict upon them. Hillary calls them deplorable. What do you think this does to the people on the bottom who love Donald Trump? And make no mistake about it, there are millions and millions of people who still love Donald Trump and his message. What do you think your hating them does to them? It makes them crazier and more dangerous.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE.
It was Monday, they'll keep it going, you know. And we'll hear more about it, more bombs. Who didn't get one, Clint? You were saying the following, Schumer didn't get one? So Bernie Sanders didn't get one, he's not on the A-list anymore. Nancy didn't get one, so she's out. I think, you know, if you look at the list of those who got him, it's only people who are really on the inside of the Democrat Party. And they kept adding to the list. They made sure they were on that list. somehow. And let the earth hear. I'm going to read the Bible passages Friday. I told you once a week. Give ear, you heavens, and I will speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drip as the rain. My speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender grass, and as the showers upon the herb. For I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Ascribe ye greatness unto our God. And I want to leave that thought in your mind. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, religious days for so many religious people on the planet. Jewish, Christian, Muslims, 3 days where they remember how it's all happened, where it's coming from. Maybe the next time you bite into a piece of bread, you should remember that you wouldn't even have a morsel of bread were it not for God. What do you think the prayer means? Thank you, God, for giving me the bread that I am eating. Think about that. Think about